She walked across the stage, valedictorian medal catching the light, cameras flashing. Her mother clapped so hard her hands turned red. Her father stood taller than he had in years. And somewhere behind that applause, the girl was wondering why she felt so empty. Later that night, she whispered, "I don't even know if I wanted this." This is where it begins. Not with violence, but with a quiet misalignment, a silence behind success. A ghost of a question: whose life am I living? Because we all love our children, but sometimes the most dangerous thing we give them isn't our wounds, it's our wishes, the unfinished chapters, the talents we abandoned. The approval we never received. They don't vanish, they wait. And if we're not careful, they slip into the one place we aren't looking, our children. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist who mapped the unconscious, called this projection. Seeing parts of ourselves we've disowned in the people we love. But in parenting, projection becomes almost invisible. It wears the mask of love, it speaks in encouragement. It hides in smiles and sacrifices. And it tells us, I just want what's best for them. But the question no one asks is, best by whose definition? We think we're guiding them, but we're editing them, not their behavior, their essence. We nudge them toward piano lessons we once abandoned. We cheer extra loudly when they succeed in the thing we failed at. We tighten when they choose something unfamiliar. And slowly, without meaning to, we hand them a mirror, not to show them who they are, but who we once wished to be. The child doesn't resist at first. They smile when we do. They move toward the light of our approval, and they begin to shape themselves around our dreams. Until one day they look in the mirror and see not a reflection, but a reconstruction. They feel pressure without knowing where it came from. They feel obligation without understanding its source. They wake up successful, obedient, maybe even adored, and wonder why it feels so heavy. This is what projection does. It replaces the child's becoming with the parent's unfinished becoming. It turns love into legacy. And it turns a person into a second chance. So the real question isn't, do you love them? The question is, have you ever mistaken their life for yours? Because maybe the first act of real love is not protecting them from failure or pushing them toward greatness, but learning to see them without your own reflection in the way. Carl Jung once wrote, "Nothing affects the life of a child so much as the unlived life of the parent." He didn't mean trauma in the way we talk about it now. He meant longing, the version of yourself you left behind. The one who wanted to paint, who dreamed of the stage, who wanted to feel chosen, needed seen. You told yourself it was foolish. You traded it in for practicality, duty, stability. You moved on, but the dream didn't die. It simply hid, waiting for another host. There's a story from Pune, India. A brilliant woman denied her chance at university, poured everything into her son. Private lessons, test prep, long nights over textbooks. He got into the country's top engineering college. Everyone celebrated, but years later, she confessed to a friend, "Sometimes I wish he hadn't." Not because she wasn't proud, but because she knew. He was living her life and it was crushing him. This is what happens when dreams go unlived. They don't disappear, they haunt. And without meaning to, we offer our children the mirror and say, "Please finish what I never could." But love doesn't ask a child to carry a ghost. When we project our unfulfilled paths onto them, they feel it, not in words but in weight. In the pause before telling us what they really want. In the way they watch our face when they choose something different. This is the moment Jung called the encounter with the shadow, the part of us we'd rather not see. The failure, the fear, the forgotten ambition. We bury it so deeply we forget it exists, until we see it shining in our child and feel everything we never were surge to the surface. And what we do next defines the cycle. We can name it, witness it, free it. Or we can pass it on, wrapped in gold, called love. And they will carry it because they love you, because they don't know it's not theirs. But here's the truth. A child should never have to edit their life to make yours feel complete. They should be allowed to fail where you succeeded and thrive where you never dreamed. They should be allowed to disappear from your reflection and reappear as themselves. So ask yourself, when they look at you, do they see your love? Or your longing? Because breaking the cycle isn't about parenting perfectly. It's about loving without a script. And maybe the greatest gift you'll ever give your child is the freedom not to finish your story. You don't become your parents all at once. It happens in pieces, in a raised eyebrow, in a disappointed sigh, in the way you say their name when they fall short, not in anger, but in that exact tone you swore you'd never use. The cycle isn't dramatic. It's quiet, predictable, invisible until the echo becomes too loud to ignore. There's a moment every parent lives through when your child hesitates before telling you what they love. And you know that hesitation isn't about the thing, it's about you. They're scanning your face, measuring your silence, trying to decide whether their truth is allowed in your presence. And it breaks something inside you, because suddenly you're not looking at a child. You're looking at a mirror from 30 years ago. The one that taught you to hide what didn't fit. You swore you'd break the pattern, but here it is again. And this time it's wearing your voice. This is transference. The repetition of emotional memory, not in your own story, but in theirs. You became the parent you once feared, not because you failed, but because you never had the space to heal. There's a line we all cross without knowing, the moment when protection becomes projection and love becomes legacy maintenance. And sometimes we don't notice until they rebel, until they choose differently, until they begin to step out of the role we cast for them, and we feel something inside tighten. We call it fear, but it's grief. The grief of watching our idea of them die so that they can live. James Hillman once said, each soul has its own blueprint. Our job isn't to rewrite it. Our job is to listen. But we can't listen to their soul if ours is still shouting over it. So ask yourself, where do you still seek your parents' approval? Where did your truth become too loud and their silence became your instruction manual? Because that manual didn't disappear, it evolved. And now your child is reading it too, unless you burn it page by page. By noticing the phrases you repeat without thinking. By naming the rules you inherited without questioning. By choosing presence over perfection. The wound doesn't disappear when you ignore it, it repeats. Until someone is brave enough to say, this ends with me, not in defiance, but in love. Because the truest love is not inherited, it's chosen. It's made in the moment when you let your child become someone you never expected and bless them anyway. Your child is not your reflection, they are your witness. They're the first person to truly test whether you've made peace with who you are, because they will not be like you in the ways that matter. They will resist your rhythm, they will reject your plans. They will walk into rooms you feared to enter and skip paths you would have died to walk. And this is where love is tested, not in the easy admiration of resemblance, but in the sacred discomfort of difference. Khalil Gibran said, they come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. But we forget, we think love is about molding. We think parenting is performance, that a child's success confirms our worth, that their choices reflect our values, that their freedom is safe only when it resembles our own path. But a child is not clay, they are fire. And the more you try to shape fire, the more it escapes your hands. What if your child's soul chose you not to carry your name, but to help you remember who you were before the world told you what to be. What if they are not a continuation, but a disruption? A holy interruption to everything you thought legacy meant? There's a moment, sometimes early, sometimes much later, when a child becomes their own center of gravity. And when they do, you will either try to orbit them or pull them back into yours. One creates freedom, the other creates resentment. But only one leads to relationship. Individuation isn't just their task. It's yours to separate your identity from their direction. To offer love without a map, to protect without owning. To let go of who you hope they'd be so they can become who they already are. They are not here to repeat your virtues, they are here to express their own. And when you let go, truly let go, something shifts. They speak louder, they laugh more freely. They stop checking your face for permission, and you stop trying to be their sculptor and start becoming their sanctuary. Let them be strange. Let them be louder or softer or brighter or quieter than you ever imagined. Let them fail where you thrived and thrive where you feared. Because real love doesn't polish a mirror, it throws it away so the soul standing in front of you can finally be seen on their own terms. There comes a moment in every parent's life when the child says something you didn't expect, something that doesn't fit the script. And you feel it, not anger, not disappointment, something else. Something quieter, like a part of you has just been left behind. It's not because they've hurt you, it's because they've stepped outside the image you held. The one you never meant to create, but clung to anyway. We tell ourselves we're just guiding. We call it love, structure, preparation. But beneath those words, there's often a fear that if they're too different from us, we'll lose them. That if they don't fulfill the version of the future we imagined, then maybe our own life was unfinished after all. And so we hold on, not with rules, with silence. With sighs, with subtle punishments and invisible rewards for being who we want them to be. But here's the paradox. The tighter you hold a reflection, the more it blurs. Because your child was never meant to be your mirror. They were meant to be their own flame. We say we want authenticity, but authenticity is inconvenient. It doesn't always look like honor rolls and college acceptances and straight paths. It looks like them choosing what terrifies you. It looks like them failing publicly in ways you spent a lifetime avoiding. It looks like them shining in a color you don't recognize. That's not rejection, that's emergence. And if you can't celebrate it, you'll end up punishing it. Here's where the old narratives show up. The ones passed down like heirlooms. Obedience is respect, discipline is love, success is sacrifice. But what if those are the very scripts that taught you to betray yourself? The truth is, love isn't proven by how well your child fits your image. It's proven by how safe they feel breaking it. So let them break it. Let them disappoint your expectations so they don't have to disappoint themselves. Let them walk away from your dreams so they can walk into their own. Let them turn away from your face so they can finally see their own reflection, unfiltered, unshadowed, free. Because if the mirror is all they ever see, they'll never know they had a face of their own. And one day when they stand in front of a mirror with their own child beside them, may they not see your unfinished story. May they see only this, a parent who let them go and stayed anyway. Maybe it all comes down to this. Can you love someone without needing to shape them? Can you stand beside a child who walks away from everything you hoped for and still call that love? Because your child was never yours to sculpt. They were never your redemption, your proof, your legacy. They were a soul placed in your care for a time, and your task was never to make them into something. It was to make them feel seen. Not for their grades, their talents, their resemblance to you, but for who they are when they're not performing, for who they are when they're just being. Carl Jung taught that the true self emerges when we integrate what we once repressed, not just in ourselves, but in those we claim to love. To parent with presence means to recognize when your child isn't your echo, but your teacher. To love without projecting is to release the mirror and meet the soul. So tonight, don't ask who they're becoming. Ask what you've allowed yourself to see, their curiosity, their resistance, their gentleness, their defiance. Their music, their silence, their strange, bright way of seeing the world that does not need to match your own. That is the gift. To witness another human being not as your reflection, but as your responsibility to protect from your reflection. To see them fully, clearly. And to still say, I'm here. If this speaks to you, if you've ever felt the weight of someone else's dream or feared you were handing yours to someone too small to carry it, leave a comment, tell the truth. And let's do something together that generations before us didn't know how to do. Let's see our children, not as extensions, but as revelations. Let them become what we were never allowed to be, and love them without needing to be seen through them. That's not just good parenting, that's healing, that's legacy. That's what sets the next soul free.